Greetings, gentlemen. So I just want to throw this out there. That is it better to be an international man, especially if you're a MGTOW, or just independently minded? Because I look at the way a lot of the Western countries are going, and I'm just like, you really want to settle into retire in one of these countries? Anyhow, this is OTR Ogre and Corey, and it's going to be a little MGTOW moment. If you happen to like or hate, like, link, and subscribe. Show me up by rage subscribing. Entertaining comments are good, but rage-filled comments are hilarious, so let's get into this. I've talked to people that have been all over the world. I've seen situations where people have said, like, look, dude, in this East Bloc country they were from, you can rent a place for $100 a month American. So our dollar still has some money. Don't fool yourself on that, but it's slowly losing value via inflation. Like, whenever the government can't pay their bills, they just go, well, it's a Social Security plan, or it's a this or that. They just inflate the dollar, which means everything that you, good, hard-working person, ever did is less valuable. It's like the joke of this place is, America is good for the time being, but we're like the last horse going into the glue factory. My favorite version of that is the smartest kid on the short bus. That's about it. We're the best deal for now, but that's kind of like the way I've really done well for myself is I reduced the cost of living. And because I didn't want to have kids, mostly because of the way the divorce laws worked. And I'm like, they're not even really my kids. So I was not really interested in marriage or any of that crap. Occasional relationships, but for the most part, I've been a MGTOW monk pretty much since my early 20s because I'm perfectly fine with it. Occasional action, just don't care. I have no reason to put down roots that aren't investments. I have reasons to do investments, but as far as settling down for emotional reasons in one place, if anything trucking has taught me is that it doesn't make any goddamn sense. It really just doesn't. And I'm not kidding when I'm saying that, because, for instance, you get emotional about an area, and the real estate's pretty expensive in that area. And so you suddenly realize you're paying an absurd amount for a piece of property. Then you have to pay taxes. Then there's utilities, the ones, if you don't rent it out, you're going to be the one paying those. So you have all these costs for doing business. And some things you can claim on your taxes if you turn into a rental or something like that. You can mitigate some of it so you can have some income coming in. But there is a certain point where you look at it, like, for instance, where I grew up on the West Coast over in Western Washington, I do love that Northwest atmosphere, climate. I love picking seaweed, picking mussels, making kelp pickles and stuff, but I got to be real about this. I can do all that crap in a van. All those wonderful things, camping, fishing, canoeing, I can do it in a van. And so that part of that aspect of myself, and I want to point this out, when you travel enough, you start to realize, when, say, for instance, you do business in a state. Some states, they do this move where, like, you're a trucker, for instance. We have no state income tax, that's why we pay less. The cost of living is less in this state. Oh, yeah, but I'm moving the same crap. I'm moving the same freight in this truck that is worth this load is worth this much regardless. Don't give me this crap about how the cost of living anything. It's just a matter that you're seeing how much you can squeeze out of me. And these same people that'll do this will be the ones that lower the cost of freight too. They'll be like, well, because we can do it a little bit lower, we have an edge on the competition. But they don't really. Mostly it's just them keeping the money for themselves. So you should think about maybe becoming an owner yourself and keeping the money for yourself. But personally, with this Biden administration coming in, there might be some people getting out of the industry. So you might be able to pick up a truck pretty cheap. Point being, though, is that when I travel the country, when I pay taxes to, say, any state that I live in, what do I get that the person that visits that state doesn't get practically for free? What? I get a cheaper hunt and fishing license in that state, and they take out several $1,000s out of my paycheck? So, wait a minute. Is there any real benefit to actually sticking into a country or a place? Like, would it be better if I just had that van? Which I got one right now, but I'm talking like if I ever built the Sprinter van, solar panels on top, AC unit, the if you guys have ever seen a truck in such a setup, like a battery-powered APU, which can be dual charge. It can be charged by the truck. You know, tops off the main batteries at 80 around there, and then switches over to the auxiliary. And then you take the situation with solar panels, so you're just chilling somewhere next to a river, so you're getting a full charge. So gaming and whatnot, do low wattage gaming. You know, maybe you even got one of those, a PC or something, but realistically, I'd probably be using like a DS or a Switch or whatever the equivalent is in the future. Something where, because I'd be cool with that. You'd be like, oh my God, you don't have a PS7? Or whatever iteration we're at then. Like, I'm hoping this is the last console, massive console. I'm hoping people go PC. I know it's a dream, right? But my gig on it is that I could do everything I want to do in that van and not pay the taxes, not pay the bills, not have all the problems. But fuel, you know, damnedest thing about the cost of fuel. Funny thing about it is that if your objective is just to get to somewhere and essentially be there, like let's say you're doing medieval fairs. For those that have never done an SCA event, Society of Creative Anachronism. I think that's what it's called. But basically, you go out on the weekend and you dress up like some fruit from the Middle Ages, and maybe you're wearing a kilt or maybe you're in a tunic or something, and you go out and have a good old jolly time. Well, what about the rest of the week? Well, what are you going to do with the rest of the week? Well, maybe because the next one's 100 miles away or so, I'm just going to bump my way there. I might even do the thing, like let's just say, just for shits and giggles, just have me and the dog, me and the corgi there, just basically be bumming change and shit, along the way. Need fuel, man, to get to the next event, like wearing a tunic and something, be like the SCA bum for those nice months. And then, along the way, I'm fishing. I drive this many 10 miles this day, or 15 or 20 miles the next day, and do a little fishing, maybe deviate, a little zigzagging to get to some cool places along the way. Do some videos, live out, maybe have my investments paying my bills here and there. The way I'm living off the dividends. But I don't need fuck all shit to get by. That's the truth of it. And then what about the cost of the vehicle? Who knows? I might be able to claim that on taxes if I build a business out of it. Just call it entertainment. Call it a media thing. You can look into this stuff, right? But the thing I look at with it is that what about the overly hot times? That's not so bad. You can just change the side of the country you're on. But what about when it's butt-ass cold and you just don't feel like living in the desert this winter? Which, by the way, Sanderson, Texas, right on the Mexican border. Beautiful place. In the mornings, smell of the desert, a little dew, maybe a little rain that happened the night before. It's gorgeous. What about that case? Well, I heard about these cases like in the Philippines. Guys telling me you can get what would be a $10 to $15 meal in the Philippines for essentially $1 American. And so rent, same thing. What you would be paying, 1,000 to, say 1,500 here, you'd be paying what, 100 to 150. I've also heard about people that say some of these former Soviet countries, yeah, they need money, and you can rent a place once again for about $100 a month. People say, well, what would you do with your van? The question for me would be, what would I do with my dog? Because some of these places probably ain't going to be cool with me bringing a dog. So I have to figure out which countries are okay with me packing a corgi or two. And so that's part of it. But even if I was just traveling this country and living in a van, the idea of getting a better deal. I say, what would you do? Actually, I got to throw this out there. What would you do as far as the van or the truck when you're not here? Well, put it in storage. And then I could claim it as a business expense. Have some storage where, obviously the person has some big old pit bull or Rotties. They're some old guy. Oh, this is Mr. Nibbles. He's my pit bull. It's fucking funny. He's like a little 7-year-old girl saying, "This is Mr. Nibbles." Mr. Nibbles loves everybody that he loves, but everybody else is a motherfucker. So it's like, people see a dog like that, they ain't gonna mess with that fucking place. But the thing of it is that You put it into storage, and then you just go to the other countries. And so I look at that, and I'm like, if this country's going to keep on selling us down the river via inflation, and like eventually, yeah, automation's going to put this whole trucking thing out of work, but it's still got a ways to go, and the big reason for that is insurance reasons. I'll cover that in another recording if anybody's interested. But I mean, when people say, "Oh, automation any day now," okay, well, tell me how you're going to handle that insurance issue, and most people don't even fathom that. They're like, insurance? Well, it's going to be so cheap, they're instantly going to do it. Yeah, what happens? One of them goes maximum overdrive and accidentally hits a crapper minivan, like a 90s minivan. And by the way, do you think the average person is going to be cool with the idea of losing their ability to drive? Well, you now need to go buy. They're going to have to. You're already going to mandate that someone's going to go out and buy like a $50,000 car. I'm just saying. Now, this $50,000 self-driving vehicle. If you're broke ass poor, you don't have $50,000, dude. So yeah, until we make those economy cars as electric vehicles cost about $15,000, this revolution of self-driving cars ain't gonna happen. So anyhow, like I said, international, man. Being tied to one place just means you pay taxes and bills and BS. And if you got a country that clearly seems like it's never going to get its act together, and almost to some degree, I think, I'm just going to throw this out there as a closing thought. A lot of people in these countries basically are treated like battered women or battered spouses, because, men get it too. We just aren't allowed to complain about it. But the thing of it is that we're treated like, well, it's like that song, Can't Find a Better Man. That's the way people act. Well, at some certain point, like if you've gone your own way, whether it's MGTOW or otherwise, and you've realized, hey man, I can get a better deal somewhere, anywhere, but I'm not tolerating what I'm dealing with here, why wouldn't you take that mentality to the rest of your life? Friends, family, society. Yeah. And that's it, man. Like, if some other country's willing to treat you like a king for pennies on the dollar, why wouldn't you take that? Anyhow, this is OTR Ogre, and hey, if you like or hate what I'm doing, like, and subscribe. MGTOW, be an international man, and leave a comment if you so choose. Anyways, take it easy.